Good evening, everyone. I've just opened the waiting room. We are waiting for a few more participants. In the meantime, thank you all for joining this webinar. I hope every one of you has the kit that we deliver to you, and you should have some cheese, a selection of cheese, breadsticks, and some dry fruit and dry olives. Plus, you should have with you also 3 labels of wine from one of our partner, Italasia. This webinar is recorded, and it will be available very soon, in 2 or 3 working days, on the TICC YouTube channel. Tonight we have a very interesting topic, and in the same time we are very glad to have a new member of the TICC with us, helping us in this, let's say, reopening. With us tonight, we have Silk Legal as a main speaker and contributor of the event. And I would like to thank a lot Dr. Paul Crosio for being with us tonight. And then also Dr. Jason Corbett will be delivering part also of the presentation. As you know, tonight we are going to talk, actually we'll be listening about 3 main topics altogether. Roughly, it's crypto, COVID, and coins. And plus, of course, we are here also to listen to some experts, but in a relaxed way. So the second half of our webinar will be also blended together with Mr. Christophe Mercier from Italasia, a wine expert, a wine spirit expert from Italasia, and a branch manager from Crosio. And in the second half of our webinar, around 6:30, he will tell you more about the selection of cheese and wine we are going to taste. Let's say, with no much further ado, I would like to leave our virtual stage to Mr. Crosio. And thank you very much for being with us tonight, Mr. Crosio.
Thank you so much, Michele. And I appreciate the opportunity to talk to the members of the chamber and talk a little bit about our company as well, and enjoy some beautiful cheeses and wines coming from the sponsors. So, without further ado, as they say, I'd like to talk a little bit about the company and myself, and then I'm going to hand over the discussion on crypto currencies and bitcoins and the effects it has on basically the economy, the world economy now, to Mr. Dr. Jason Corbett, who's the managing partner of the firm. So if I may, I'm just going to share some slides, which makes it a little easier for me to talk. So if you can see those slides, we welcome the chamber and the ability to talk to the members. We are a legal firm that's based in Bangkok, and here we are here. We are a boutique legal firm. We have 2 parts of our business. Predominantly, we work on general corporate work, specializing in Fintech. And then we also have another division, which I'll talk to a little bit later, that has another specialty. So this was our predominant and first business, which was to service corporate clients in Thailand and service them in a number of ways that assist their entry to Thailand and establishing their presence in Thailand. Dr. Jason Corbett, who's with me tonight, is the founder of the company. His proficiency is in many areas, but of demand at the moment is the expertise in cryptocurrencies and in Fintech, which quite honestly has been very demanding for us. We've also worked in other areas, but Jason's very well known in Thailand for his expertise in this Fintech area. So it's great that he can come and join us and talk about the trends in this area. Myself, Paul Crosio. My background is obviously by the accent. I'm from the Italian diaspora. Grew up in Australia, in Sydney. Graduated in law in Sydney and did postgraduate work in various places, the UK. And interestingly enough, in the Middle East, where I specialized in Sharia finance as well. I've worked in a number of boards and companies and been involved with some of the more notorious bankruptcies globally. MCI WorldCom, which still ranks as the third largest bankruptcy in world history. Worked with Asia Global Crossing, another famous company. LG Phillips, where I headed the international division for restructuring. If you recall, there was a mass exodus from picture tubes, CRTs, to screens, flat screens. So as part of the team that worked on that transition, which was quite a task given the number of people and the facilities involved. Also, one of the areas which I've inherited and we've grown is working in the medical cannabis area, which many people find interesting, and I do particularly. And also in the area of new chemical compounds, which is a specialty area revolving around products such as Kratom, Kava, and other related products which are entering into the mainstream. I've spent, it would be probably close to 3 decades in Thailand in various positions. So have been here the bulk of my working career. Pretty proud to say we've also launched a new division of the company, and that's called Silk Advisory. And this division is based upon the expertise that we have in providing people with the ability to maintain their business during these difficult times. We work in a number of service areas, debt restructuring, refinancing, distressed assets, shareholder workouts, out of court and in court restructurings and rehabilitations, and planning and bankruptcy planning under the Thai Bankruptcy Code. Very proud to say that we've been recently awarded one of, I believe, 15 licenses to act as an advisor and a planner in a bankruptcy situation. And one of the very few legal firms that actually has that license, predominantly going to advisory firms or accounting firms. So we think we give a unique perspective in that area as well. And we've been rapidly expanding our base of resources so that we can service clients in that area. So we are at the moment working with restructuring in real estate, hospitality, as well as some other small and medium businesses. It's probably a topic for another time to talk about some of the new innovations in Thailand that allow us to be more effective in working out solutions for people in financial stress. And it's one of the areas that we see as where we can add value to the community and provide a resource that's readily accessible and easy for people before they get into the ultimate situation of bankruptcy or having to close businesses and lose their prior investments and hard work. I'm also very happy to introduce Don McBain, who's joined the firm and has worked in many areas. And he's not me. I don't know why I'm there, but Don's expertise has been in planning around major workouts with construction companies, hospitality, as well as in areas such as SMEs as well. Don's an engineer with an MBA in accounting, so he's one of the people who brings many, many decades of experience into Thailand. I'd like to finish, it's not meant to be a lecture, but in Thailand, as you're aware, the number of companies that are undergoing financial stress and exiting in bankruptcies, etc., is increasing, and it's disappointing that people have left their access to professional advisors to the situation that they are becoming bankrupt. So we'd like to say that we are seeing this as an area where we can contribute to the community and to help them through navigating what is a fairly difficult legal system and getting an outcome where they can preserve value. So we are, and this is one of our standard slides, this is, we specialize in rehabilitation, not bankruptcy, because obviously we can do it, but we like to think that we're the people who come in before it's too late and give people ways of retaining their the value of their businesses and services. So to end, we have a lot of information on our websites. We publish regularly, and if you are able to scan those QR codes, they'll bring you to the various websites, which will give you a lot more information about what we do. And as well as giving you information that you may find interesting for your own personal businesses and background. As I said earlier on, we are here to contribute to the community, and we believe that working in these areas, whether it be in our standard corporate practice or in our advisory practice, we are adding value to the community, whether it be the Italian community or any other community that we participate in. So I'd like to thank the Italian Chamber for allowing us to sponsor this event. And without continuing too long, I'm going to hand over to Dr. Corbett to talk about some of the areas in the crypto and fintech area that you may find interesting. So I'll hand over to Dr. Corbett now.
Thank you very much, Dr. Crosio. And also for the participants that just joined us, please feel free to drop your question in the chat. And Dr. Corbett, the stage is all yours. Thank you for being with us tonight.
Thank you for the kind introduction. So what we planned on doing is kind of having a bit of a fireside chat with Alex, kind of leading some questions, and I'll just kind of go into it and give my insights on my thoughts of the cryptocurrency market and what is happening, what's hot, what's not, and maybe have some questions or something at the end. So Alex, I will let you lead off with some questions.
Okay, cheers, Jason. I was also going to add that I believe you've worked on over 100 projects in the crypto space since 2017, so truly an expert in that regard.
Absolutely, thank you.
How is this current super bull cycle been treating you?
So the crypto industry is kind of interesting, as it follows kind of like the stock market, where you have bull cycles and also kind of bear markets. So the last real kind of bull cycle we saw was back in 2017. That kind of went to early 2018, and that was mostly around the development of the Ethereum coin, which allowed for smart contracts. So it's this technology development. So going back from that before, Bitcoin was developed in 2009 and slowly got traction throughout the years. Had some ups and downs, and during that time, it basically really kind of started taking off. So there's a kind of another bull market in 2014-15, went down again, 2017 came back up, went down in 2018, and then early 2020, it started again. So last year, it just really took off. So the change with that has been what they call DeFi, which is decentralized finance. DeFi is interesting because it's able to allow application of the smart contracts and do some really kind of interesting things. I'll give you a couple of examples of those. So things like flash loans, for example, where you're able to basically enter into an agreement with a protocol, basically borrow money, execute a contract, and then finish the contract all within one block on the blockchain. So that takes about 6 seconds. So it's really kind of interesting stuff that's been developing, and there's been a lot of technology that's been built out around that. So over the last year, since I would say about May last year, there's been a lot of interest within the area, and it's really kind of developed. Partially, this has been fueled by COVID, I believe, whereas a lot of people have been sitting at home on their computers looking for something to do. And basically spending time on it, researching, and getting involved within the communities that are out there. and it's really kind of promoted the industry as a whole. The crypto industry about a week and a half ago hit $3 trillion in market cap, which is more than most countries. I think it's the third or fourth largest if it was considered to be against GDP. It's the third or fourth largest economy in the world right now. So it's had a massive uptake over the last year, and it's been continuing.
You said that the bull cycle started back in late 2020 with the introduction of DeFi. Do you want to go a bit further into what DeFi is?
Yeah, so basically, like I said, DeFi is decentralized finance, which allows users to basically interact with a smart contract directly. So you don't have to have an outside, an additional service provider or anything else. So it's like the smart contract is the code that governs the smart contract, if you understand that. So the user is able to basically interact directly with the protocol and do things. With that, it basically installs an element of trust, whereas the code executes the way it's supposed to, and it basically gives a result. So if you want to basically make enter into a contract with another third party, the smart contract is the one that governs it, and it can't be interfered with other third parties. So it creates that element of trust and accessibility for users.
Okay, thanks for that. You mentioned this one earlier. The original coin that made crypto famous is definitely Bitcoin, and we've recently seen the adaptation of Bitcoin as legal tender in El Salvador, and there's also rumors that Zimbabwe is considering it. Where do you see the future of Bitcoin going?
So Bitcoin's really interesting because it's become a real, what they call like a store of value. So it's able to basically retain value, and it's liquid. People can take a Bitcoin, they can sell it, they can transfer it, and it has this value attached to it. So you can kind of almost equate it to something like digital gold. And you're able to basically hold this, and you're the one that is able to basically control what you do with the Bitcoin. There's different ways you can basically store it as well, whether it's what they call it custodial or non-custodial storage. I won't go into the technology around that because that's a half-an-hour conversation. Somebody's on. Okay, I think we're back. You have like I say, it's the predominant one. So when Bitcoin goes up, the general market goes up. When the alternative altcoins, when Bitcoin goes down, everything else seems to follow. So it's one of these ones that kind of governs the entire industry, and it probably accounts for about 50%, 55% of somebody.
Okay.
Okay, I think she's unmuted.
All right, thanks for that. Do you think there's going to be a sovereign crypto coin or a central bank digital currency being launched anytime soon?
So there's been a lot of talk about what they call central bank digital currencies or CBDCs. So this is essentially taking a US dollar, a Thai baht, a British pound, and digitizing it. So it is basically backed by the government, and it is worth what they say it is. It's somewhat kind of different than what you have as stable coins in the industry, which are basically back to usually a dollar. So you have things like US dollar, USDC, US dollar circle, US dollar tether, which basically backs back a one-to-one. But when you have a central bank digital currency, that's actually going to be issued by governments and backed by governments. So what that's going to allow people to do is basically interact and send money in such a way where they're able to basically, do it without a bank. Basically, they're peer-to-peer through a smart contract or whatever it might be.
Okay, but one of the whole points of cryptocurrency is about removing government control and decentralizing the exchanges and stuff. So what is the point of a centralized central bank creating its own central bank-backed digital currency?
So it's interesting what technology can do in the future. So if you have something like a central bank digital currency and taxation systems, for instance, you'll be able to basically create smart contracts that auto-complete to do certain things. So if you have you pay a restaurant, for example, if you go out and you want to pay using central bank digital currency, the tax component would automatically be sent to the government for tax collection, or tax refunds would automatically be sent back to the other wallet. So it's able to streamline processes and make things a lot easier without having the need for various kind of counterparties.
Okay.
It's still in its early development. It's probably going to be a few more years before we really start seeing these things come into effect. And the idea of digital money is just, it's good. If you look at what China's doing, so China's one of the countries which is really promoting CBDCs. They want to be able to try to control the monetary system to a degree, and basically kind of free up reserves and allow transactions for users in a certain way. If you look at things like WeChat and Alibaba, like Alipay, Line Pay, all these different kind of apps, which basically are acting somewhat as a financial institution to allow transfer of money, there is a certain kind of systemic risk in the background. So if there is a collapse of something, there could be adverse effects for users if the liquidity or the cash reserves are not there, if there's a call or a run on it. Having something that's backed dollar to dollar would bring a lot of comfort to the mass markets for using digital cash and allow transactions in the future to work better. So I'll give you kind of a broad example of something might be in the future. So if you have an international trade contract, so you have party A buying widgets from party B in a third country, you can basically put it into a smart contract. So instead of having an LC, you would have certain instances that would be derived into the smart contract that release funds on certain times, such as when the shipping company releases goods onto a ship. Cash could be, or digital currency can be released to the seller's wallet as soon as that happens automatically, rather than having to wait for banks or third parties to make it happen. That's one example.
Cool. So you touched on this briefly just now. You brought up stable coins, but you also said that when Bitcoin loses its value, the rest of the market seems to go too. So what are the stable coins and how do they work to maintain their value?
So stable coins, in theory, there is a couple of questions around some of the stable coins and their asset backing behind it. But generally what they have is commercial paper and investments that basically are basically backed. So if there is a liquidation event, that they can actually cash this stuff out and basically repay dollar for dollar. But it basically allows people and users to enter into an agreement and trade within crypto. So if you're a Bitcoin trader, for instance, back in the past, you would have if you're buying, say, Ether, and you're selling Bitcoin for Ether, and Ether to Bitcoin back and forth, and you're going up and down, and both prices are going down, it's hard to make any money without going to cash through a kind of a fiat gateway that puts it back to regular cash and enter back into the market afterwards, which costs you more money as far as basis points for moving in and out of the market. Stable coins would allow you to basically take profit, sit in stable coins, and then rebuy at a lower price.
All right, cool.
Really used for trading and really used for if people don't want to have fluctuation within a price.
Okay. Speaking of, we've got a very relevant question on this. Jane has just said, we saw Puerto Rico switch to have cryptocurrency as a parallel currency of their country. Isn't it too risky for the fluctuations?
So there is an inherent risk around using Bitcoin to pay for things. You do see kind of swings of 5%, 10% per day. It is very volatile, and there's inherent risk around that. But using stuff that is more stable, that basically reduces that risk and allows users to operate in a manner that's a little bit better and have some surety that if you have $1, it's going to be $1 when you cash it out.
All right, cool. What are the other current trends you're seeing in the crypto sphere?
We're seeing a lot of things around institutional investment. So the massive run that we had in 2017-18 was a retail focus. Basically increase in market price. Now it's institutions. So basically institutions are seeing that they have, it's a real asset class and people need to be in it. You have companies that are buying Bitcoin and other kind of currencies to basically prop up their cash reserves. You have companies like Tesla, buying Bitcoin. You have other kind of U.S. listed companies that have bought Bitcoin to basically put on their balance sheet as alternative assets, and rather than having something like gold or cash, they will hold the Bitcoin instead. And it allows for kind of the quick movement of funds globally. So it's a really interesting one, and there's a lot of institutional and kind of global interest in it at the moment.
Thanks for that. We're always hearing about blockchain, and now we even have Facebook joining in, and we've got crypto becoming more mainstream, and there's the Meta. Why are there so many chains now?
So the chain's basically a protocol, and protocols do different things. They all kind of function the same way, in the effect that you have basically a decentralized way of keeping the record. So all a blockchain is a ledger that records the transactions that's decentralized. So in the case of Bitcoin, there's thousands of different validators that basically sit on the internet. That basically validate and keep a record of what the transaction is within the one block. So like basically with Bitcoin, every 6 minutes a block is created, all the transactions are recorded within that block, and then that block is closed. It can never be changed. If there is a problem with validators coming up with incorrect answers or basically things not balancing, then it goes back and reverts and tries to fix it. But once it's on the blockchain, it's permanent and it can't be removed. So you have these newer chains that are being created, which do different things. So you have some of the newer ones like Cardano, Solera, that basically run faster. So you've had issues with the Ethereum blockchain, which has been the first big one that was around smart contracts. It works well. It's slow and it's expensive. Sometimes when they have issues around speed, or there's more transactions happening on the blockchain, it takes more power to process it. And the price of what they call gas, which is the Ethereum you need to spend to make the smart contract function, goes up. For instance, the other day, sending some basic kind of Ethereum transactions, I was paying $40 to $50 for a small transaction. There's been instances I've had over the last couple of months where there was actually what called like a hard fork. So there was something happened on the blockchain that became unstable, and the network actually forked itself and backed everything up and created a new chain to basically to deal with that. The gas prices went to like 1,000, which should be normally kind of like 50 or 60 to maybe 100. So the price went up 10 times. So entering into a smart contract went from maybe $80 to $800 just in a matter of seconds. So the future of finance is there, but it's a little bit expensive and not worked out yet. So the newer chains are trying to do it faster, try to do it cheaper.
Okay. Well, as we've all been in COVID lockdowns and stuff, we've seen the shopping malls decline in popularity, and people moving to online shopping and stuff. Do you see decentralized finance replacing the bricks and mortar banks anytime soon?
So decentralized finance is one thing. Replacing banks are becoming irrelevant. People are using digital banking anyway. So the banks themselves, when it comes to the commercial side, is really kind of a race to the bottom. The fintechs that are out there are doing things faster, doing things cheaper, and providing better service and basically eating the bank's lunch. So you see a lot of places where they're shutting branches and not reopening. They're doing some kind of things in the background where it's faster, cheaper, and more profitable to do everything online rather than have a branch. And the technology is getting better too, that the client can actually have a better experience and do what they need to do rather than going to a branch. You need to take a loan out, you want to buy some insurance, you want to make an investment product, 5 minutes on a good mobile app, you can accomplish the thing rather than taking a trip to the bank, spending an hour in line, talking to somebody that doesn't really know the product and being frustrated with the entire experience. So I think it's kind of counterintuitive for banks to compete against this stuff, but the real kind of interesting stuff will be the DeFi part in the future, which banks are all over as well. As we see in Thailand, there's been acquisitions by some of the large banks getting into the blockchain space in a big way, investing billions of dollars in acquisitions so they can have a part of this because they realize that this is the new way of doing business, the new way of having finance.
Okay, well, thanks for that. I've just been informed that we're out of time for this section. I do have a question from Sassiton, but we'll pick that up in the Q&A later. Yeah,
so there's a couple real quick questions there was in the chat around NFTs. So I'll cover this one really quickly. So an NFT is what they call non-fungible token. So that's a token that has something attached to it within that smart contract. A lot of it is art. So you can have an NFT that you can own that has a piece of digital art attached to it, or it can be a representation of other things as well. So it is very much a new way of doing business. There's been a large interest in NFTs and minting NFTs, and people have made a lot of money over the last couple months with it, but it's something that's still very much in its infancy, and it is growing. So that's something else to kind of have on your radar, and it will be kind of a part of the new norm going forward.
Thank you a lot for sharing. Let's say, I think we should organize another webinar or seminar with you whenever you are available, because there is so much to talk about it, and the development of this type of topic is very fast, that changes weekly.
It does, it sure does. Well, thank you for the time, and much appreciated on behalf of the firm. Pleasure to meet you.
Thank you.